Today, I am talking all about pursuing your passions, setting meaningful goals in 2025, and how to overcome obstacles with grace. I wanted to kind of go back in time and reignite some of the episodes that have been a favorite. The very first is with Sebastian Terry.
Passion is an emotion which is barely controllable. If you're able to focus that, harness it, and direct it into the things that you're doing, you're unstoppable.
With Francesca, Facio.
Majority of us women, what we do is we tend to put everybody else first. The thing that we forget is that if we don't take care of ourselves first, there is nothing much that we can do for others.
With Karishma, Patel.
I can see the habits that we fall into when we're with our parents and when we've been with them for so long. And I just have to pull myself back and see myself on the outside.
With Dr. Navaz, Habib.
When the mother is stressed, it goes into this frequency pattern that's not calm, then mother's stress is transferred to child. And their bodies shift into a mode where they're in fight or flight more readily.
With Jennifer, Hudye.
When it comes to a vision, we want it stretchy enough where you have no idea how you're going to make it happen. That's part of the game. That's part of the delight. But also finding that sweet spot where your subconscious brain can get online to commit to bringing it to life.
I'm wishing you the most abundant, most expansive, most incredible year ahead. Welcome to your next chapter. Hey loves, do me a quick favor and hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you are tuning into this. It helps grow the show more than you know. Thank you so much again and enjoy. Now, in celebrating over 260 plus episodes. We are closer to hitting 300 episodes, and I'm so excited. I wanted to kind of go back in time and reignite some of the episodes that have been a favorite. And if you are just tuning in for the first time, if you have no idea and you just stumbled across this channel or this podcast, thank you so much for tuning in. May this be your oasis and your destination to be brave in all areas of your life. And the very first one that I want to bring us back to is episode 125, How to Set Meaningful Goals and Find Happiness with Sebastian Terry. Now, he was brilliant. I mean, he talks about the importance of identifying personal goals that align with your true desires, leading to fulfilling a purpose-driven life. And here's his excerpt.
Passion inspires passion. And it's never left me. If you think about that, if you think about someone who's passionate in your life, and of course you're passionate about what you do, but if you think about someone else, you're drawn to them. You can't help but feel a level of motivation for yourself. And you're like, oh, what am I passionate about? So there's a ripple effect to doing stuff you care about. Totally. Passion inspires passion. By definition, passion is an emotion which is barely controllable. So as a verb, passion, if you're able to focus that, harness it, and direct it into the things that you're doing, you're unstoppable. You summons this resource, this energy, this creativity that you just don't have in any other place.
Yeah.
It's hard to get that, but if you're passionate about what you do, you get there. And the ripple effect is immense, whether family, friendship circles, families, communities, businesses, etc.
To get more in the juice, you must go ahead and have a listen. I've linked it below in the show notes. Moving on to the second one. And I'm talking about 7 today because I think that it is so powerful if you are utilizing this time of the year to go inward, to reflect on what went well this year. May this be your guide to get ahead for 2025 and see what is it that you are truly calling for the ultimate vision of your life. Episode 257 is that, and this is none other than Unleashing Your Dreams or Unleash Your Dreams, the ultimate guide to pursuing your passions with Francesca, Facio. Now, Francesca, she is not only a dear friend, but she is someone who has risen like a phoenix through the ashes. She was a single mom who was working at a call center in Costa Rica, customer service. Single mom had to leave in the middle of the night, taking care of 2 of her kids. And she rose all the way working for one of the largest personal growth companies in the world, and also one of our companies as well. And not only that, she has put together and literally been the guide for thousands and thousands of students throughout the years. Francesca, She shares her journey in this episode of leaving behind conventional expectations to chase her dreams, even if it's halfway across the world, highlighting the transformative power of saying yes to herself. And here's one of our favorite clips from that episode.
I have a life that it seems like a lot, but it's more normal for many of us women who try to be these super women, super wives, super moms, super everything. And then it comes a point where we have to break down in order to break free and rebuild ourselves. So I'm in that part.
Yeah. And when did you feel, or when did you recognize that you wanted to break free from that? What was that turning point for you?
For the longest time, I was living like inside of a matrix. And I just didn't know that I was inside of a matrix. And then I remember, and it's going to sound maybe silly, but I was watching this movie, Stepford Wives. And I started crying, like a lot. And it was because I saw myself in one of those pretty robots. And I was baking cookies and taking care of my kids and taking my son to therapy and my daughter to dance lessons, taking care of the house, having 2 jobs, doing all of the things. And for the longest time, I thought, this is what a mom and a wife is supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be taking care of everything. And I just didn't know that I had a choice. So yes, I was exhausted, but I thought all mothers have to feel this way. Then one day, I start to feel this pressure inside of me. And I was going to bed crying. And I said, but I have this beautiful house. My kids are okay. I'm married. I'm living in a nice neighborhood. I'm supposed to have the dream. Why am I not happy? And there was something that was happening inside of me, something that was bubbling inside of me. And one night I just sat out in my terrace with a bottle of wine. It wasn't a glass, it was a bottle. And I said to the universe, what the fuck? There has to be something more to life than this. It is not possible that my life is just a list of to-dos. And I didn't know what that more to life was, but I know it had to be something more than just responsibility all the time. Yeah. So I remember I just ranted out to the universe. It's not that I was meditating and all of that. I just blew up and I just said, I've had it. I've been a mother since I was 20. I've gone through all of these things. I did my job. I need to find something else. And so I go to sleep. The next day, I open my computer and I see an email from Vision, the owner of Mind Valley, and he says, Fran, I need you to come to Malaysia because I need to have all of my managers here for a month. And I said, wow. A 1-month invitation just for me. So I was like kind of excited and scared and how do I do this because it never happened? And then I break the news to my family, and my ex-husband said, what am I supposed to do with the kids? And Abby was 13, and Eduardo, my oldest, was 17. I mean, they were not babies. And we had a woman that helped us, that lived with us to help 24/7. And I just said, you know what? Make sure they don't die. I mean, fuck it. And that was the first time in my 37 years of age that I thought about me first. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to survive and I needed that. And I remember going through customs and just feeling so guilty because I never left my kids and my responsibilities. And then I went through customs. There was no way back. And I just said, oh, fuck, yes. Yes. And I went through the first time in a honeymoon with myself and to start this journey. And then I didn't ever want to go back to not loving myself.
It's so beautiful because Well, first of all, that trek from Costa Rica to Kuala Lumpur must have been a really long trek.
36 hours.
36 hours, bananas. But also when you get the call, because it seems like so many of us, we get the call, we don't answer it. You got the invitation from that person, and we get these invitations daily to change our life, to go to the gym, to end that relationship, to not respond to the text message, or to respond to the invitation to come out, to share your story on a presentation in front of a boardroom, in front of 3 people, and we don't take it. We are afraid, maybe, of our own light. What do you say to that?
I think that the majority of us women, what we do is we tend to put everybody else first. We feel it's our responsibility to take our children, our partner, our friends, our everybody first. And we have to take care of everybody first. But the thing that we forget is that if we don't take care of ourselves first, there is nothing much that we can do for others. But it is a hard thing to learn. And I only learned it after that trip with myself. And then in the 40s that I incorporated oh my God, what do I want? What do I want? What does it feel resonate with me? And I feel like that voice and that calling that you say, that we all have it, we tend to shut it up, to put it away. But once we awaken that voice and we give it life again and we connect to that voice, it's like, okay, I'm out of the cage and I'm never going back there. And that is delicious. And it's just giving that voice or opening the lock to that.
Whew. Still get chills from that with Francesca. And I think anybody can unleash their wings. They just have to say yes and get out of the way and give your permission to yourself in order to do that. So I hope that that episode really sparks and ignites that curiosity within yourself. All right, the third one, episode 256. What if your ultimate dream isn't your true calling? This one is by yours truly. And I help you explore the concept of redefining your career and your life path. I know a lot of times, many of you know my story from leaving a very lucrative career as a cosmetic dentist, selling my practice, starting all over again in the field of coaching, writing 4 books, and one of them just actually launched last year, the paperback version. The hardcover copy launched the year before that. That sucked, now what? And this is really a reminder to trust your inner voice, but we have to pay attention to the whispers of what our heart actually wants. Oftentimes we're ruled by logic in our brain. And one of the things that and one of the reasons why I love this episode so much and why my team wanted to add this here in this mashup is because it's so important that as we are doing new things, that we are going to fail in the process. And actually that failure is a good thing. That failure reminds us that we're learning and we're learning how to walk again. And it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to fumble, fall, and pivot, because with each fall, we're getting closer to discovering our true calling. And here's that excerpt. Instead of thinking that it's a death, thinking that we can reframe that to be in more alignment of the path that we want to walk in now. And that's only defined by you. It's not defined by, okay, everyone else is trying to, get to 7 figures, so I'm going to try to do that. In my 30s, it was all about really expressing my voice, really expressing my truth, and to be, to write 3 books and to chart my dream career, being able to travel and find the love of my life and live in 33 different cities with him within 17 months and then start a family. That was just dreams behind my wildest dreams ever. And was that a big success for me? Absolutely. That I was able to do that, and I was able to teach people how to live pretty much their dharma on their terms, and really school people on what their dharma could look like and how to break free from the shackles of what other people tend to impose on you. And now I get to do this every day in a different way. And now in my 40s, as I'm starting to really see the family that we've built, that we've laid roots in this particular city, and that I can end my day and have the freedom and flexibility to do what I love and share some of the things that I love and share some of the tips and the pitfalls. So you don't have to go through all of the crazy big leaps in the valleys and all of those things, because now maybe you can trust yourself to take that leap. Maybe you can trust yourself to be brave, to ask, okay, what do I really want right now? Is this my season of this go-getter era? Or is this my season of the supportive era? Or is this my season of this mothering era? Or is this my season of my creative era? This year, many of you know that I started a bunch of different creative pursuits. Many of you know I've been talking about chai. I'm starting my own chai company. It's in the works. It's in the process. I will share all of it and spill the chai on all of it when it's fully ready, but it's almost there because of my love for chai. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't really know and understand what my dharma has been and what my dharma always has been. And nowadays, we've never been in a more creative season in life where we can create and monetize a life that we are meant to live, that acknowledges our creative pursuits. If you are somebody that has, and there are pretty much six ways to do it that we teach in High Self Institute. The first way is one-on-one coaching. We have certified over 2,000 people now across almost 8 cohorts. And we have several different certifications that help you in whether you're healing track, whether you want to get more embodied and actually give yourself permission to feel and express and emote, or if you are one that is already desiring to create a business from what you're already doing, giving advice to people as a friend, as that mom, as that human, as that advisor, whether it's in your company, in your family support system, in your community, in your friends group, in your girlfriends group. You have, number one-on-one coaching that you can actually do right now today. The courage to redefine you. And mamas, you know this as a fact, because as mamas, it brings us immense joy, but it can also spark this desire for change, especially in our careers when we enter motherhood. Like, we want to all of a sudden have more time with our kids. We want to all of a sudden start all of these creative pursuits. Why? Because our second chakra is open, our sacral chakra. We're not having babies, then we're probably going to have book babies or business babies. We are so wide open to express and create. And there's never been a more beautiful time now to create on the internet. And you can do this one-on-one coaching. You can do this with teaching one-to-many. If you have an idea of inspiring other people because you have a methodology, let's just say you were a yoga teacher, but you want to teach other yoga teachers how to do a specific thing or how to go into corporations, you can actually host a webinar. You can actually have them come to an event that you're doing, and maybe they pay $30 to come or $50 to come or $100 to come. It could be an event. It can be retreats. You all know that we've done several different events. I'm a big believer of retreats. I love creating experiential experiences for people. If that is you and you want to collab with close people in your life, why not? Why not do that? Why not do more of that? And if you're also combining this with exploring the world, oh, guess what? You can do that now. That is something that we teach in our institute, our Highest Self Institute, where we have our 6-month container to become a certified Dharma coach. And we teach you all about one-on-one coaching. We teach you all about one-to-many coaching. We teach you all about retreats as well as, well, podcasting. I cannot believe it. I have done over 250 podcasts now in less than 3 years. We are now 1% of all podcasts. And our reach has grown to over 500,000 just in YouTube alone over the last few years. And it is mind-boggling that we are top 50 in mental health and in relationships. This is something that you can actually do. If you have this gift of pouring into other people, this is something that you can actually do. It can be in your fingertips. All right, moving on to episode 254, breaking through your doubts and discovering your purpose. Again, this is another solo episode, and I love this episode so much because it goes into overcoming self-doubt and the importance of self-discovery and aligning with your purpose. And so, it's a reminder that you can actually go after those goals while offering those actionable steps to move past your internal barriers. All right. Challenging my body in different ways has always been such a gift for me and part of my dharma. It's one of the ways that I am able to come back to myself. It's one of the ways that I am able to just really find my essence and my core of doing hard things and challenging my body, mind, spirit in all of those ways. And I was so excited that my husband decided on his own with the help of one of our really close friends that he was going to do this particular climb. And it was going to be, the terrain was going to be rugged. They had to, have all of these, like the hiking sticks and the shoes and everything like that. And that they were going to be camping. And meanwhile, they haven't done any of this before. And it was really all about endurance. Well, when he got there, it was a completely new ball game for him. He had never been exposed to this before. And it was going to the race was a full race. It was 36 hours. And the mountain, they had to climb the equivalent of Mount Everest in 36 hours. The mountain opened up at 6 a.m. And so they had to do this climb 13 times to completely finish. And not only that, people could sleep if they wanted to. And they had to bring up all of the gear. And it was a 2-mile ascend upwards. And if you've never climbed a mountain before, it comes with all of the things that we need in order to challenge not only our mind, body, and spirit. And as we know, and as we heard the sayings, when you opt to climb a mountain, it can break you. It can test your mental, emotional resiliency. And you may come across hurdles that will make you question things. Am I supposed to be doing this? Is this really what I signed up for? Why am I doing this? Why did I sign up for it? And so my husband was going through all of this and immediately was like, I don't think I trained as much as I thought I was supposed to train. Like, this wasn't a flat walk. This was legit going up a mountain and then doing this 13 times. And so he ended up finishing, to his result, he finished 8 climbs. And that was huge. That was huge for him. He had multiple different breakthroughs. And a lot of it was the beliefs that he had about fitness growing up. His parents were from India, and they, my in-laws, they were told that we've got to keep safe. Safety is huge. We're not going to stress our bodies. We're not going to do anything that's harmful, because if we do, we may get hurt. And so that was what he was always told. So be safe, stay in the container, etc., and so on and so forth. And then he meets me where I'm like the complete opposite. And so that has been, it's been a beautiful relationship to see the way that we come together in many ways and support each other. And, during those breaking points of when he was about to give up, I was on the phone and he's like, I don't know if I have it in me. And so I asked him, what is your dharma in this stage? Because he's turning 40. And, what is it? Who is the person that you're becoming? And who is that person? Because you're right. Your knees, your shin splints could be hurting right now. Your feet could be giving out. Your mind is definitely going to say why and question everything. And it doesn't matter if you finish or not. I'm going to love you either way. And who are you becoming? And what is that? What is drawing you to the finish line? And he said, I want to break what my parents told me to pave the way for our kids so they can do hard things. And I said, all right, that's it. That's it. Whatever that is. And so he took that with him, and he was able to finish the 2 extra climbs that he did to finish at 8. And he said, I'm complete. I feel like I reached all of the things that I wanted to learn, of being able to expand my capacity, my body, to see what I am capable of. And when we are questioning ourselves and who we are becoming, we have to be okay with the noise that some people may not agree, that some people may question, that the party that I was at, where people didn't know how to place me, this auntie and uncle didn't know what to say or how to introduce me because I was no longer a dentist, although that's what they led with because that's all they know. And people's perception of you, because many times when people find me or find this work or find this topic, it becomes really heated because our family, our lineage wants us to get married at a certain age, wants us to have children at a certain age, wants us to settle down at a certain age, wants us to reach, quote unquote, whatever level of success that they deem worthy and successful, because their parents thought that for them. And then the parents before them thought that for them. So this has been passed down from generation to generation. And then when young people come to me and say, why did you leave dentistry? Why did you spend all that time going to school? Why did you start your own business and then decide that wasn't for you? And wherever you are at, and whatever season you are at in your journey, embrace it. If you are just getting out of school and you are getting that first taste of a role or a job, or you realize that you're like, man, what I went to school for, I don't know if I want to pursue that thing. Because we are so lucky that we are living in a time, for the first time ever in the history of our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, that we are inventing new careers every single day. Every single day. That we are in this vortex of creation, that we are in the highest possibility of our most creative pursuits. Okay, episode 230, why it's not selfish to take care of your mental health, with Karishma Patel. Now, Karishma Patel had so many valuable insights talking about the necessity of prioritizing our mental health as a foundation for achieving personal and professional goals, and honestly challenging the stigma around self-care. And oftentimes we don't recognize and realize what we are doing to ourselves when we are chasing one particular avenue. And she reminds us, and one of my favorite excerpts here,
I have an interesting little background. My older sister is blind, and so I was the youngest, but also the oldest, if that makes sense. She's 4 years older than me. As soon as I was born, I had this role that was given to me to take care of her. It was, I love my parents. They did the best they could. I understand like that situation, especially 30 years ago, was so difficult. They didn't have the resources, the money to take care of both of us at the same time in the way that they needed to. And so a lot of it fell onto me to take care of my sister. And so I played a role of being older when I was so young, and I wanted to be free, but I also like had this, not burden, but oh my God, I have my older sister, she's blind. I have to take care of her. I have to do things for her. I have to take her places. And so that relationship was really difficult, and I still struggle with it sometimes.
How did it affect your relationship growing up?
With my sister or my parents?
Both.
A lot of resentment. I was so angry. I was so anxious. I think my anxiety started at 11 years old. Anxiety and depression, which I've learned now that I'm older, like, oh my God, that started at such a young age.
And how did it like come about? How did you know, or what did you feel for, you know, in your body, or just how did you know that this wasn't right?
I was so sad all the time. I was so sad. I was so angry. And I was like, no child. Well, now that I'm older, because at that time I didn't know what was happening, but I was like, no child should feel like this at like 10 years old, 11 years old. And I see my little cousins, I'm like, oh, you guys are living. But I understand it was a very difficult situation, and everyone in that situation did the best they could, but I think I got the short end of the stick.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I mean, not speaking for your sister, but how was that relationship as you guys got older?
You know, in the beginning, obviously, it was a lot of anger, a lot of resentment. Now I'm slowly getting over that. Our relationship is still, it's different. It's, I don't think people understand when having a sibling who is visually impaired, they don't see the reality of life. They see they're in a bubble. And I think that's amazing. And she's happy. But she doesn't, we can't have like real deep conversations. So it's still like not motherly, but it's like different. It's just so hard to explain that relationship. And as we get older, I'm becoming more patient, more compassion, and giving her more grace, giving myself more grace, and just helping her be better and helping myself be better.
Yeah, I can't imagine being 10 years old and having that responsibility of taking care of an older sibling.
Yeah, and she's blind since I was born. So
wow.
It started very young.
Wow. And how is your parents' relationship now with both of you?
She's the baby of the family, which I understand. Like, they're going to keep her nested forever. But I think when I left my house, I left around 25 years old. That's when my relationship started getting better with them. I started learning how to hold boundaries. I started talking to them better. I feel like we have better conversations now, and we all hold space for each other. I mean, I can see the habits that we fall into when we're with our parents and when we've been with them for so long. And I just have to pull myself back and see myself on the outside and be like, okay, let's take a deep breath. They're just projecting, or like you're projecting. And I feel our relationship definitely progressed since I was young.
And so this whole journey of you kind of taking yourself and taking everyone else through your fitness journey, did you know that it was going to become like a mental health platform for you?
Not at all. I thought, let's just share my fitness. Maybe I'll become a fitness influencer. And I was like, it didn't really feel right. I just felt like, okay, what's the point of just doing weight loss when it's not really connecting me? Like, our body is so beautiful. It has so many changes. And then also at the same time I started that, I started therapy. So I was 22 years old. I started therapy. I started this blog. And then with therapy, I started learning what love was for myself. I never felt that. I felt like I was always looking outward. And as soon as I started learning to look inward, that's when it changed for me and for the platform.
And what was some of the responses of people? Because I can only imagine being able to first share your journey of a breakup online and then going through fitness, but then letting people really into your life when people looking like us, I mean, usually we shove things under a rug.
Yeah.
Usually we kind of pretend like everything's okay, or at least
we're taught that, right?
You know, we're taught to just be stoic and smile and yep, everything's great, and then move on. How were you breaking that?
You know, everyone was so supportive. When, like, even some family members, like, now they talk to me about what they went through, like their depression, their anxiety. I was like, what? They're like, you have opened up the floor for all of us, especially in our family. The younger kids, they say how they feel. They are so much more in tune with themselves. And I'm just like, that's the whole point. It doesn't matter as long as I'm helping people talk about their feelings, talk about that everything doesn't have to always be okay. And it was a lot of good support. And I think that's what just kept making me want to do more and more.
Do you think we've actually changed a tide with the way things are going with kind of embracing our feelings and sharing more? Or do you think we're just like in a little bubble for all Brave Table fam who keeps listening and even on your podcast?
I think, yes, we have changed it. So many people.
How so?
I feel like people are more open online too. I mean, from when I first started social media to now, I see people being more raw, talking about their depression, talking about postpartum, talking about anxiety, and they're more accepting of it.
That is such a beautiful, beautiful reminder on how we can actually prioritize our mental health in the process. Okay, finally, episode 221, How to Calm Your Nervous System During Chaotic Moments with Dr. Navaz Habib. Now, this one was my all-time favorite episodes because we geek out on the nervous system and we geek out on how to regulate our nervous system when we are chasing our big dreams. And it is so crucial for when we are maintaining our focus, when we are healing our body's ability, when we're going after things after burnout, and what to do when we are chasing after those big dreams and vivid visions of ours so that we can come back to what we truly, truly want to prioritize, which is what else and how else we are contributing in the world.
Inflammation is literally that common trunk between all the root causes that we see and all of the potential conditions that we see. And that common trunk is that uncontrolled inflammation. So I see patients dealing with anything from diabetes and obesity to Parkinson's disease to autoimmune conditions to hypertension, you name it. Like if there's an inflammatory component to it, your body is not doing a great job managing that inflammation. And so we need to shift the state and then address the root. And that state shift is often that missing piece.
The state shift. So we need to shift our state and ask ourselves, what else can we do to date our vagus nerve? So exactly. In section 3 of the book, which I love, you talk about, there are about 4 chapters, actually, there's 6 chapters dedicated to, the different strategies that we can be doing. So if I am new to kind of dating my vagus nerve, where would we start? And what is something that we can kind of begin doing?
The single best place to start without fail is something you're already doing approximately 20,000 times a day. And that's your breath. Our breath is the controlling kind of autonomic mechanism that we tend to forget about, but is the one that we can use most readily in any single moment to shift our state quickly. And so this is where I'll always start people. I never want anybody to go full off the deep end and jump into a cold plunge right away, because that's probably not the best idea. Can be a lot for anyone right off the bat. But we want to start working with your breath. So breathing is really interesting. Joseph Pilates said that if people learned how to breathe better, the whole world would be a better place. It really came down to, in Pilates' world, he noticed that people were breathing really poorly. And there's so many different books on this that I'll mention later. But essentially it comes down to we're often breathing short, shallow, and chest focused. That's problematic. When we breathe with our chest, we're not using the prime muscle for our breath, which is our diaphragm. This is huge. The diaphragm is a massive muscle, literally separating our chest, our thorax, from our belly. And that diaphragm muscle is almost this huge dome-shaped muscle that when it contracts, when we utilize it effectively, it's what creates the vacuum that allows air to enter our lungs. If we're not using our diaphragm effectively, we're using something called accessory breathing muscles. These accessory breathing muscles are the ones upper back, upper traps. I don't know if you know anyone who has really tight upper back muscles, upper trap muscles, headaches because their neck is tight, or their chest and shoulders. These muscles are accessory. They're secondary. They're only there to do the job of breathing when your diaphragm can't do it. It's a great backup plan, but we're using the backup plan. We're not using the prime driver. And so breath is really key here. We really need to look at how we are breathing. So one of the quick things, and we can just do this right now, I have my patients put one hand on their chest and one hand on their belly, and I have them take 3 deep breaths, or take 3 breaths, and monitor to see where they're at. And you'll notice often we're breathing with more movement on the hand that's on our chest.
Oh.
And what we can do,
I can see, well, I can see where, people who are only breathing in their diaphragm are kind of like their shoulders are up, their neck is stiff, their shoulders are all the way up to their ears, and no wonder we have these tension headaches, right?
That's exactly it, right? We have all of these conditions that we're all experiencing, or many of us are, because these muscles are being overused. And so we're sitting there with this tension constantly, and now we have tension headaches, or we have issues with our TMJ, or we have all these other conditions that are secondary to breathing patterns that are not optimal, that are involuntary, that are not strong. So the breath is key. And so what we want to do is we want to have our breath go to our belly. We want to inhale through our nose, big one. You're a dentist, you know this very well. So air should go in through the nose. When it does, it's A, being filtered by your nose hairs, B, it's being humidified in the sinuses, and we're activating nitric oxide activation when we breathe through our nose. And that air is humidified, warmed, and brought into the lungs effectively. So nasal breathing should be diaphragmatic, slow, and deep, and ideally a longer exhale than inhale. So we should be breathing out longer and breathing in shorter. The reason for this is when we're breathing in, what's happening is we're sending a signal to turn on our sympathetic nervous system, which signals the fight or flight mechanism. This is very clear. Imagine you get in the shower and you turn on the shower and the water's freezing. What's the first thing that happens? You go, tighten up. Everyone gets tight. You take a very short, shallow breath, immediate with your mouth, right? Like we tend to go into that sympathetic state. And that's the extreme of it. But if we're sending that signal ever so slightly all the time, and we're doing a long inhale and a short exhale, we're sending a sympathetic signal. So our body is shifted into that fight or flight state more readily. As we exhale and we extend that exhale, we spend more time in that parasympathetic mode where the vagus nerve is turned on. So the longer the exhale, the better. So it's
kind of like pattern. a yoga breath, basically.
Exactly. And that's what yoga is based on. Really interestingly, all of yoga is meant to be breathing while in difficult physical positions, right? And so it's the next level. It's breathing while under stress. So learn to breathe without the stress first, and then learn to breathe with the stressors. And that's where yoga, Pilates, cold plunge, cold showers, etc., that's where those can be added on. So a really simple pattern that people can start with is the 4-7-8 pattern. 4 seconds of inhale through the nose, hold for 7 seconds, and out for 8. Okay. I love that one. It's nice and calm. So 4 seconds in through the nose. 7 seconds hold and 8 out. Exactly. So that is so calming. And you'll notice literally doing 2 or 3 of those breaths. I do this. I have group calls with my membership group every Thursday. And we do this for the first 2 or 3 minutes of our call. And everybody just goes into this calm state. And we then have this amazing call because everybody is chilled out. Everybody goes into parasympathetic mode. The stressors melt away for a moment. And we're able to put our thoughts more objectively and improve our executive function. When we do this, what's really interesting, our blood flow actually comes to the front of our brain, to our prefrontal cortex, where all of our executive function is. So we actually begin to think more clearly, more logically, more objectively, and be able to make better decisions because we're breathing more effectively, because our body's in a state where we're not simply reacting to threats to our survival.
Oh, I love all of this. Okay. And, you also have a chapter around one of my favorite ways, and I've been doing this with my kids too. But, chapter 17 is all about, auditory and listening therapy. So, can we just talk about like the effect of music and the vocalization? Because if we're dating our vagus nerve, should we just be putting on some tunes and just like, karaoke vibing it out or what?
To some extent, yeah, honestly. And I love this. I do this with my kids too. And vocalization, sound, it's so important. So have you heard of the polyvagal theory, Dr. Stephen Porges?
But
Yeah,
please tell us about
of
this
course.
for those who do not know.
So for those who don't know, Dr. Stephen Porges developed this theory called the polyvagal theory. And what this comes down to is auditory cues of safety and feelings of safety drive the vagus nerve to work effectively, correctly, and keep us in a state where we're in that rest, digest, recover more readily. Any of these stressors can push us out of that feeling of safety. One of those can be from, interestingly, from mother's voice. This is a really interesting concept that came through the polyvagal theory, is that when the mother is stressed, when the mother's voice is high amplitude, it goes into this frequency pattern that's not optimal, that's not calm, then mother's stress is transferred to child. And the child takes on this stress and their bodies shift into a mode where they're in fight or flight more readily. And that pushes them into this engaged state. And it essentially primes their bodies to be, and their minds to be in this psychologically stressed state more often. And the perceived threat to their survival or the perceived threat to their safety is significantly greater. It can go even further into a state of freeze, which is a whole nother level of your vagus nerve is on, but your whole body systems have shut off. And that's kind of the red light, your deer in the headlight situation. But the polyvagal theory is essentially based on the auditory cues while we're growing, while we're young. And so having our children listen to a voice that is calm, that is relaxed, a mother's voice that has very specific frequencies and amplitudes, you can just imagine, like, you're sitting with your kids reading them a book. You want to be calm. You want to be relaxed. You want to engage with them. You want it to feel safe and comfortable for them.
All right. How to create the vivid vision of your life with Jennifer Hudye. This one was my all-time favorite episode. And honestly, you all thought it was your favorite episode as well. This was highly, highly rated. Jennifer is one of my dear friends, and we go into how to actually have that vivid vision for your future and what you are calling in your next chapter and how to actually go about doing this. We actually go into several steps that are actionable that you can take that will carry you on no matter what you are doing and no matter what season and stage of your life. Have a listen here. I know that within all of the vivid vision retreats that you've held, that so many of our friends, go to, they plan out their time to attend annually. And how do you actually define it before, is it through the process? Is it something that we can just unpack here?
Yeah. So the model that I like to use when it comes to clarity is it's a spectrum. So imagine on the left-hand side, there's the unknown. And then on the right-hand side, it's the known. And clarity is the known. And if you were to ask most people, explain to me the feelings or sensations that you have when you're clear, they'll usually say, I just know. Or I feel a sense of certainty in my thoughts, my feelings, and my values. So I think of it as head, heart, gut, gut being values.
Yeah.
And so clarity is when those are all in alignment. And so what happens right in the middle of this spectrum is confusion. And confusion is thinking you should know something, but you don't. And this is where so many people get trapped in a loop because maybe there's a part of them that really knows what they want, but they're not willing to admit it because of the responsibility that it's going to require for the knowing. And so instead they'll opt for confusion, because confusion is a easy cover up for avoidance.
Oh. And we don't have to do anything when we're
Yeah.
in confusion.
Yeah, I don't know. And then you're just in idle. I don't know. I'm confused. And that becomes the excuse.
And we don't have to make a decision because we're confused.
Yeah. It's sneaky. And that I would say 80 to 90% of the people that I work with, they are actually clear, like some part, or if not more than that, 90%. There is the part of them that is clear. So much of our work is like unraveling all of the beliefs around and the fears of what will happen when they're clear.
Ooh. Well, and so what would you say to people who, because you're helping people create like a vivid vision, and that vivid vision sometimes is like audacious, it's bold. And in your experience, do you find it that, are people truly setting out their vivid vision, or are they usually kind of dimming their light, or only thinking that, their vision could be maybe half of it or a quarter of it, or let's not think too high, or let's not dream too big? Like what's too big for a vivid vision?
Yeah. So these are all beliefs that just stand in the way of the clarity. And it all comes down to radical self-honesty. Being honest with yourself of what it is that you really want, which can be so vulnerable for people. And so I have a lot of leaders come to me and say, is this too big? Is this too small? And I always bring it back to them, because when it comes to a vision, we want it stretchy enough where you have no idea how you're going to make it happen. That's part of the game. That's part of the delight. But also finding that sweet spot where your subconscious brain can get online to commit to bringing it to life. So for example, I had a client, and for helping them through the vision process, they had a company. They were doing about $10 million in revenue. And we were trying to find the sweet spot around their growth for the next 3 years. And so at first it was 20 million. They're like double. But I could tell even in their energy that they had set that because they knew they were going to hit it. And so it was challenging them of saying, we're going bigger. What is the number that is going to feel like exciting and oh my gosh, we don't know how it's going to happen? And they decided 50 million, which was audacious, but they could get on board with it. And then once they clarified their vivid vision, they ended up hitting that $50 million mark in 18 months.
Oh, wow.
And I think too, it was the sweet spot, because when your vision is big enough where you have no idea how it's going to happen, you got to start asking yourself completely different questions, because the operating system that got you to where you're at isn't going to be the one that gets you to that vision. And so if you create something and you can come up with a plan, it's not big enough, because your plan is in service of the vision, but it's not the vision itself.
Ooh, okay. So this takes me back to this pattern that I've seen in the way you think and how you teach the people that you work with how to actually think differently around this. And so can we like unpack, because you said something around questions. Most people won't ask those questions. And so, which is why most people would probably be so afraid to declare such an audacious dream, or that this dream is way too big, it's way over my head. But so help us, how do we actually ask better questions? Because you seem to be Such a queen at that.
Well, the first place I would start for anyone, if you're in the phase of saying, I want to start to clarify my vision for the future.
Yeah.
I would first start by setting the questions that I recommend asking are going 3 years into the future, imagining you're taking a time machine there. And you first start by saying, okay, let me paint the picture. What would I love my life to look like? So one of my favorite questions is, what would I love? And
So
that
good.
concept of if we believe that we came from love and we go back to love, then that would mean that we are love. And so answering the question, what would I love, is our answer to Spirit's question that is seeking to express itself through us. So a lot of people will get tripped up. I don't know if this is the thing that I'm supposed to do. Well, if you would love it, then that's your answer, because love will guide you to where it wants you to go. And so many people instead ask lower grade questions like, well, what should I do? What makes sense? What will my parents approve of? What will other people think? And those will set you into a trap of, I call it a golden jail cell, which is you'll do everything that you intended to do, but it will land you in the place that you didn't even want to be with in to begin with. So what would I love? What would I love the area of my health to look and feel like? My physical, mental, emotional health. What would I love my relationships to look like? My romantic relationship, my family, my friendships. What would I love my business or my career to look like? And start with what you know for sure. Start there. And then you can start to bring it more specific in the way that feels good for you. So if it's career, well, I don't know what I want. Well, I want to work in a career where I'm excited every day to show up and contribute and create value to others. I would love to generate the amount of income that allows me to provide for my family and the things that I would love, taking care of my health and my wellness. You can start general, but allow yourself to even answer that question.
All right. So as a recap, I've shared some of my profound episodes in the past 3 years on really helping you navigate and going after your big dreams, while also taking care of your mental health, of your nervous system, of your emotional health. And all of this to say, happy holidays. And I'm wishing you the most abundant, most expansive, most incredible year ahead, just by braving your new you. Welcome to your next chapter. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you love this episode, go ahead and drop a comment below. If you are new and you just found this, go ahead and click the subscribe button. And if you are following us on iTunes or Spotify, go ahead and click the thumbs up. It helps us grow the show more than you know. Thank you so much for tuning in. It means the world. Tag us what was your favorite. Comment on the Brave Table or at Neeta Bhushan on Instagram. I will see you soon.